Welcome to Cinema-Savants, your home for all your movie and TV news, with Todd Vandenberg, Lee Vowell, and Rob Steele. And coming up this week, we've got good news, bad news, and a sale. You know, we'll start with the sale, because Black Friday is this Friday. 'Tis a thing. And if you go to the Cinema Savants website, cinema-savants.com, there's a button for a store. It's the Coil Entertainment Network store. But you know what? We've got Cinema Savant t-shirts and coffee mugs and pillows. That's right, pillows. All of which is, like 30% off this week because it's Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. So, see, that's good news. And now we're going to switch directly to I think, the worst news we've had. I would say the worst news we've had this month, but Trump is still president and talks. Well, it is. I mean, and if you're wondering what that bizarre noise is, that's Todd broadcasting from the remote location known as Miami.
Yes.
It's remote for him. Very remote for me. We've got ice on the windshields in the morning here, and I'm in Georgia because global climate change doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Unfortunately, technically, I suppose, neither does Stan Lee. That's a horrible segue. I should have done better for him, but I think he would have approved.
I think he would have, yes.
Stan Lee, mainly known for creating comic book characters, but so many of them wandered into mainstream media through television, especially movies right now. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is everywhere. Coming up on, is Captain Marvel the 21st or 22nd movie? So, I mean, they're closing in on Bond at this point, which is...
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah. In a considerably less, smaller length of time, but... and he's cameoed, I think, in every one of them, which is excellent. And he's apparently filmed the next several. So we haven't seen the last of him, but he was 95 and died earlier this week, which is very sad. Do you have anything you want to throw in on that? Because
well, I can say there's really nothing to add. Just Google Stan Lee, and everything is there. Or we could talk for Stan Lee for
weeks, months.
Literally, right? As in nonstop. He didn't invent comics by any means. He isn't even the sole creator of the Fantastic Four or Spider-Man or Iron Man or the revamped Captain America. No, he didn't create Captain America, but I think he was on board by the 12th issue, perhaps, of Captain America, like way back when World War II was still going on. So a huge hand in the creation of the comics universe. Of course, never had any ties with DC, but helped popularize the entire genre for everything. So, I mean, it's a huge loss to the community. And yes, he was around for decades doing his job, but just such a
nice, friendly guy too.
Oh my God, yeah, and an icon for he's the icon for the industry. There's just no way around it, and he helped popularize comics, and he changed the tone by making them real people with real problems. That was his concept. It's like, well, okay, how can we change this up? How can I do something different from Batman, from Superman? And yeah, Superman had his family, but there weren't really family issues, blah, blah, blah. The Fantastic Four was a family, and they had all the problems that families have. And then they would have to fight Dr. Doom or, a race of mole people erupting from the streets in Manhattan. And, of course, that was the other thing, too. He said it in the real world.
Yeah.
A big change from DC with their fictional settings, which were thinly veiled disguises of Chicago and New York, which in the movie, Batman v Superman wound up just across the bay from each other, which, again, another...
All of a sudden, it's a West Coast thing. I thought it was New York the whole time. No, it's Oakland and San Francisco.
Yeah, it's really... that's another reason Zack Snyder is like the anti-Stan Lee. Man, that dude just doesn't get it. Anyway, but Stan Lee did. I mean, absolutely brilliant. And like you said, everyone that came across him, just a super nice guy. Even Jack Kirby at the end apparently acknowledged that. Because, man, did they ever have a war. But beyond that, that's just a huge loss. Because he was still a big part of everything with the cameos and the comic cons and everything else. So thank you, Stan Lee, for
everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I grew up with him not entirely knowing that he'd made the comics, but watching Spider-Man and his amazing friends, he introduced every episode,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which was cool, especially once I figured out who he was.
Oh, and the letters in the actual comics, the letters page.
Yeah,
And
which I don't have anymore.
No, and he would write a full column just talking about things and talking about things that were important and things that kids should be hearing, like, oh, tolerance is a good thing. And what do you do when you're angry? And, oh, this is how Pete would handle it. I mean, Peter Parker was basically a lesson for how to get through adolescence. I mean, God, what a brilliant concept. So,
yeah, I'll agree.
An awesome person.
And so,
Thanks.
Anyway, but his legacy goes on.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Which is excellent. We've even got Guardians of the Galaxy 3 news this week. Not exactly one of his creations. Not this incarnation anyway. But it's a Marvel book. It counts.
Yeah.
And with James Gunn leaving, there has been kind of a question about who's going to direct the third Guardians of the Galaxy film, and it looks like Travis Knight, who did no relation to Michael, the guy with the car. He's the guy who did Kubo and the Two Strings and the new and actually good-looking Transformers movie Bumblebee. He's supposedly the top guy in the running for this. And if he did Kubo, I think he could do it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, my gosh, Kubo is just phenomenal. Now, yeah, it's hard to tell about Bumblebee yet because we haven't seen it. Obviously,
well, it's not out yet. It's,
I agree. I agree 100% from the trailer. This looks like, oh my God, they're actually doing a Transformers movie.
It's Transformers 1, the way we should have had it.
Yeah. This just looks good, and it looks grounded, and it looks like it may have characters that you can care about, and that's what anything needs.
Yes.
On the Transformers, and yeah, Kubo and the Two Strings, we've talked about it before. It's like, man, that's just a phenomenal movie. He's also that's the first film he directed, but he worked on Paranorman and the Box Trolls. I mean, this guy's got some chops. So it sucks that they had to make it. Well, it sucks that they made a change. They didn't have to make a change. It sucks that they made the change. And I know you disagree. I still concede the reason for it, but it still sucks that it happened, regardless of whether.
I see the reason for it. I just don't know that it was done in a timely manner.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, different show.
I don't know if it's going to be done anyway. But different show. But this is brilliant. I really like this move, and we'll see how Bumblebee is. But even if Bumblebee is not the greatest thing, he's the director. He's not the producer, so it doesn't necessarily mean that. Oh well, that's the issue. But I mean, strictly based on Kubo and the Two Strings, is like this is like a home run. So this is good news. This is really good.
It could be very good news.
Right.
And, we'll see when the movie comes out. I know it's going to fit everything else. We'll be fine.
Yeah, there's no way Kevin Feige is going to allow it not to fit.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty obvious at this point.
And, we're not real sure if Batista or Zoe, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, Gamora.
Yeah.
There we go. We don't know if they're going to be back or not. But you know what? That's okay. Chris Pratt will be back.
Yeah. And, and like you said, the roster and the general movie-going universe, people may not realize how much the roster has changed, but I mean, the roster like Guardians of the Galaxy changes more than the Avengers, and then again,
the Avengers changes a lot.
Oh my God, the Avengers change seems like sometimes with every issue. Yeah. So, as long as they have some core tie-in, which basically to me would be Rocket and Groot. I know that's not truly the core, because there's no core, because it completely changes over at times. But even they could even do without Star-Lord if they have Rocket and Groot. I honestly think that. And I love the Star-Lord character, and Chris Pratt's fantastic. I'm not saying, they can do without him, but, they could.
And he is going off to do a different franchise now. Allegedly, he's in the early negotiations of rebooting the Saint franchise.
Oh, that's really good news. Although,
I mean, it's going to be better than the previous film version, which was done by Val Kilmer. And I say done very loosely.
It will be. There was a Saint movie just 2 years ago, which was interesting. It was kind of a lower budget version of an attempted relaunch. And like I said, it was interesting. It was worth watching, but it wasn't great either. It was better than the Val Kilmer version, though, which, granted, that's not saying doesn't
I
take
like
much.
Val Kilmer, damn it, but some of his movies.
Oh, I like Val Kilmer a lot. He's awesome. But that movie just didn't work.
No.
I mean, that's all. Gosh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Chris Pratt as the Saint. That's not what I envision.
Well, I mean, it was originally done on the TV series by Roger Moore, then the Val Kilmer thing, and then I missed the one you're talking about. So, I don't know.
Which it's going to be a different take. Obviously, it's going to be more comic because why Chris Pratt? You're not going to do that, right? That would be stupid.
And then they'll cross it over with Green Hornet, and everyone will further confuse Chris Pratt and.
Oh my God!
And I've forgotten the guy whose name who did Green Hornet, but that's okay.
Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, thank you. Because every so often I do get them confused.
There's an interesting take on that. I mean, that's going to be a really broad comedy, and the Saint just doesn't fit the character. But doesn't mean they can't revamp it. Personally, though, I just don't see that work for that character as he's been portrayed for decades, because it's an old character. But who knows? I'm pretty sure. Let me look up, because I vaguely recall having seen some movies from the 40s, maybe, that were the same.
I think they were, because it was not a new character when Roger Moore got a hold of it.
Oh, no. Yeah, it was. And that was, let me pull up the actor's name, because I don't want to get this wrong and screw it up. No, that's not the right Saint. These are terrible things. George Sanders. All right. And I guarantee that hardly anybody will recognize the name George Sanders. But a very smooth, suave.
He was an outfielder for Houston back in the 80s, wasn't he?
That's the guy.
Yeah, that's him.
But very suave and urbane and very, very dry wit, none of which is Chris Pratt.
I think he can actually... It could be kind of like the Michael Keaton Batman thing. I can see him pulling it off.
I can see him pulling it off, absolutely. But to me, is like, if you're not going to use Chris Pratt the way people think of Chris Pratt, why use Chris Pratt? But then again, you could say exactly the same thing about Michael Keaton. Right. Michael Keaton, what the hell do you use Michael Keaton for? But obviously that worked. So it could be.
Anyway, so Chris Pratt might be doing this for Paramount, who is the ones rebooting The Saint, which is my nice little segue to Paramount is teaming up with Netflix to do some movies, because Paramount is not going to do their own streaming service, thank God, unless it's CBS streaming, which they own. But they may be releasing movies on Netflix, which they're going to kind of consider their streaming service, which is kind of weird, I think.
It is weird, but it's also smart. It's smart on both ends. I mean, Netflix gets a major studio, and Paramount gets their pocket streaming service, with an exclusive window, which happens to have, I don't know how many millions of subscribers Netflix has.
A lot.
Yeah.
And that'll make us happy, because we don't have to pay for another streaming service again. Yes,
because another streaming service is coming. I don't know if you caught this, but the big rhubarb over the loss of Filmstruck.
I'm getting to that. You're ruining my segues in advance, young man.
I'm so smart.
I know. It's foreshadowing.
Let's move on to
coming up after the break. No, I'm kidding. But no, the other Netflix thing that came out this week is they're trying to get Netflix movies Oscar nominated, because they're films, and films get Oscars. That's the way it works. But people from the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences are not happy with Netflix because of, here's a quote. And let me see if you can figure out what's wrong with this. The quote from an anonymous Academy member, because telling us who you are would, add credibility or something. I'll get to that. The quote is, Netflix is pulling a big con. They're trying to buy their presence and identity as a film company without playing by everyone else's rules. They don't want to take the risk of having bad box office numbers. They're also going to make assertions about how fantastic their crowds were, but there will be no dollars. There's no credibility, thank you, Mr. Anonymous, because there's no accountability. Let me back up.
through this whole thing and say, hang on a minute, a credibility and accountability, because there's no dollars coming in. When was the last time you saw a big blockbuster that actually made money nominated for an Oscar?
And on the flip side, since when does box office have anything to do with Oscar nominations? None.
Avengers and Black Panther? No, they're not. They're not nominated for anything.
Well, but that's not a criteria for Oscar.
No.
It's the quality of the film, which has nothing to do with the box office. Other than their ill-fated, stupid, popular best movie, which is how mindless was that? Thank God they scrapped that. Yeah. So this person is angry at Netflix because they're not risking bad box office, so therefore they shouldn't be eligible. There's an awful lot of Best Picture winners who really did not do well at the box office, which is just kind of how things go.
I'm trying to think of the last one that did, and I'm coming up with Return of the King. And before that, I'm not coming up with much of anything.
That's just so... I can understand why the person decided to be anonymous, because frankly, that's beyond stupid and goes counter to exactly what the Oscars are about. They're not about box office, idiot. Now, the industry, obviously it's about box office, but the Oscars aren't.
Nope.
And you may have a complaint about, well, they're not risking getting bad box office, which, okay.
The Color Purple didn't make that much money on its first run until it got nominated. Then it was re-released and everyone went, oh, now we'll go see it.
Which is the typical thing, because that's why they want the Oscar nods, because people think, oh, that's a good movie, because the Academy liked it, I'll go see it. That happens with every Oscar-winning film.
Shape of Water.
Which
the same thing. I'm just throwing movies out that I can think of that they did that with.
But here's the thing: is like Netflix does risk things, because if they release something on Netflix that never made it to the theater, which is most of their things, they're still going to have to be popular. Because if they're not popular, people are going to say, "Oh yeah, that's another Netflix piece of trash. I'm not going to watch one of their original things." They are risking, in a way, box office, because popularity is important to them, because that's how they make their money. By subscribers. And if they turn out a bunch of crap, people are going to say, you know what? It's like, I'm just going to use another streaming service.
I'll switch to Hulu.
Exactly. So that's just really ill-considered and stupid. Has nothing to do with the Oscars, and Netflix does take a lot of risks.
Speaking of ill-conceived and stupid, you sent me the thing on the Regal Holiday Pass.
Yes, I did.
Which includes it's a pass you can get to go see 4 holiday movies, including Elf and Polar Express.
Indeed.
One of those has horrific acting, and the other is just one of the scariest horror movies of all time. I mean, seriously, the hell with this David Pumpkins thing. The scariest movie Tom Hanks ever made was Polar Express. That is a seriously creepy movie. And it's not just because Tom Hanks played everyone, including except for that one girl who looked like Oprah. I'm not saying that because she was African American. I'm saying it because she looked like Oprah.
There you go.
Only shorter, so it's an Oprah Loompa.
No.
I'm going to catch crap for that, but it's still funny. Anyway.
It's funny.
Wow. I think I'll pass on this pass. The Regal Holiday, no thanks, I'll pass.
Oh, I would too, because actually I don't even care for Elf, and I'm sure most people on the planet do, but I just don't. To me, it's going
to be on the USA Network in another 10 minutes.
But this is brilliant by Regal, because it's $15. You get 4 holiday movies, obviously not all at once, but you gain, that's 4 trips to the box office with the kids, who will demand their popcorn, who will demand their candy, who will demand their Coke, so they can get their sugar. Insane. They're going to make a killing on the concessions for this, because I'm sure a lot of people will go because they want to see, oh, that's fun, this is cool, let's go take the kids to go see Polar Express. And yeah, that's very creepy. The Uncanny Valley thing the force is strong with that one in Polar Express. And Elf, and I believe Christmas Vacation, and I can't remember what the 4th one is, but they're all super popular. We're not shilling for Regal. I just think very smart decision.
I think they'll all be on the USA Network anytime now anyway. Stay at home, buy the popcorn at Walmart, or
but you don't get the fun feel of the theater experience, which is important. And going back to the Academy Awards and box office.
Hang on, quick thing. If you go to Walmart and get one of their Black Friday big 5,000-inch TVs, that'll be cheaper than the concessions you're going to have to spend at the theater to, if you go to Regal.
I agree. And if the seats are sticky, it's your kid's fault.
That's your own fault.
So going back to the box office thing, the first thing that popped into my mind was the Hurt Locker. And I was thinking, it seemed like that was really popular. The Hurt Locker 2009 Best Picture winner, $17 million box office.
Yeah.
So tell me again how box office is linked to the Oscars. I mean, there are a lot of Oscar winners that made over 100 million. Absolutely. Titanic, which is I still can't believe.
I forgot about Titanic. I keep trying to forget about Titanic.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, Return of the King. But like you just said, The Shape of Water, under 64 million. Moonlight the year before, and it took a couple tries for them to get it right, but it was Moonlight that actually won, not La La Land.
They didn't even get the
under 28.
And the winner
million.
is not at the box office.
Spotlight, 45 million. Birdman, 42 million. 12 Years a Slave, 56 million. You have to go back to 2012 before you get a Best Picture winner that broke $100 million, which these days is like, that's not worth a sneeze.
They're not going to make a sequel for that.
Which, that's just,
I don't know.
So wrong-handed. I wish the anonymous person would announce themselves so we don't know how stupid they are. Anyway, on to more fun things.
I was going to say, it's Dead Things we're almost there with, which goes into Filmstruck, which is almost dead. But they announced earlier this week that Criterion, who was a big part of Filmstruck, is going to be doing their own streaming service. Yep. Which aims to be a movie lover's dream, which I'm sure is going to be $9.99 a month, and you only get Criterion movies. They haven't announced that part yet, but so I think that's kind of the nail in the coffin for Filmstruck.
Filmstruck is done, period. It's really odd. A couple things about this is Criterion Channel, hopefully it would be $4.99 a month, because it's also going to be tied in with Warner Brothers Archives. So Criterion will be available on that when that also launches. So we get two, which doesn't make any sense. But the only way it would make sense is if Criterion is a lower level, like I said, $4.99 or whatever a month, and then the Warner Brothers Archive is going to be the typical probably $9.99 a month, I would assume, because then you can also get Criterion with that, which I would think most people would go with
the better deal, I would think.
Yeah, because you're going to get probably thousands of more movies looped in with that. So Criterion will be back in the mix. It's a shame it isn't just going in with Amazon or Hulu or Netflix, but anyway, that's the way it goes. But again, go back to the whole thing of all these high-level, high-powered film celebs, moaning and groaning about, Filmstruck, please say Filmstruck. It's like, you guys are multimillionaires. Why don't you buy it? So don't have to worry about it. But again, it's going to be several months before this happens, because this is not until sometime in 2019 that the new streaming service hits. But again, here we are with another freaking streaming service. It's like, oh my God.
But Filmstruck is dead. And so, mercifully, is the reboot of Alf. Segways wrote themselves this week. They were going to be rebooting Alf, which was a hideous show back. Was that the 80s or the 90s? It was the late 80s, I think. And I hated that show. It was stupid. Horrible show in my head, because it had some decent actors in it. It really did. Alf was not one of them. But thankfully the reboot is dead. They announced this week we're not doing it, and everyone heaved a collective sigh of relief.
Late 80s, Alf.
Yeah.
God.
Hated that. But if you do want a cute talking furry thing, Detective Pikachu is coming. Which, if you have not seen the trailer, which was released this week, but it's a Pokemon movie where, if you're even vaguely familiar with Pokemon, you know that any of the Pokemon creatures can actually only say their own names. So a Pikachu can only say Pikachu, except this one guy in the movie hears his Pikachu talking as Ryan Reynolds and saying things like, "Dude, I'm hungry. Can you feed me?" instead of "Plita, plita, plita, plita," or whatever they say. He actually hears it. No one else can hear this Pikachu say that. And they go on adventures from there. But the trailer actually made it look pretty good, actually, because all the Pokemon characters look spookily realistic. I know they're CG, not the point.
Which is a key point.
Yeah, but it actually looks like it's going to be a cute movie that I know I'm going to be forced to take the kids to see.
I mean,
There's your money, Regal.
And Ryan Reynolds gets to have a movie that his kids can watch.
Yeah.
Which seems to be a recurring theme with a lot of stars. It's like, well, I'm making this so my kids can watch one of my movies. So
yeah.
It's a very cute idea, and the concept, it's not like this is new, obviously.
No, I think it was an anime.
Yeah,
or a video game, I'm not sure which.
Of a concept of an inanimate object that is alive to one person, and one person hears it. I mean, in a way, go back to Harvey in the 40s, with the giant rabbit that only one person could see.
The frog in the Warner Brothers cartoon.
On and on and on. Yeah. One froggy evening. Anyway, yeah, I like this idea. I like a lot that Ryan Reynolds is tied to it, is doing it. So it sounds very fun. Looking forward to Detective Pikachu, which, by the way, if you type in DET in Google, Detective Pikachu is the first thing that comes up.
Uh-oh.
Not like Detroit or detectives in general or whatever, but Detective Pikachu.
It's already popular.
Yeah.
So is Toy Story, another kids film which released is more of a teaser this week for Toy Story 4, which for some reason takes place before Toy Story 3, I found out. So thank you, George Lucas, and we wonder why our kids can't do math. Toy Story 4, do I have any storyline idea from the trailer? No, because it's a bunch of the characters singing in a circle, or there was that Key and Peele teaser, because they released 2 of them, yes, where they tried to figure out what, to infinity and beyond, Buzz Lightyear's catchphrase, but they came up with a bajillion minus a lot variations of it in their own teaser that told you nothing about the movie.
Yeah, that's fun. The Toy Story franchise is so good. I mean, Toy Story 2, to me, is the weakest movie, and it's a really fun movie. But Toy Story is great. Toy Story 3 is great. Key and Peele being involved is like, oh, my God. So very much on board for this. But I'm curious because Tom Hanks let his inner Mark Ruffalo out and said something along the lines of, boy, this one's really going to make you cry. He's like,
yeah, I know.
What are you saying? What are you saying, Tom? If Tom Hanks says something's going to make you cry, I'm very concerned about it.
As well, well, Polar Express made everyone scream, so it's Tom Hanks again. He's everywhere. It's like a horror movie. So anyway, the teasers came out, which is a sneak peek into something which Amazon is going to be doing. Amazon Prime users get to go to Regal Theaters. Actually, there's a list of other theaters that are doing this on Saturday, December 15th, where Amazon Prime users can buy up to 10 tickets to see a preview of the Aquaman movie. I'm not sure if this is a good idea or a bad idea. I just know it's an idea, and that's what they're doing.
To see a preview?
Well, the whole movie, an early look.
Gotcha. An early showing. Gotcha.
Yes, buy this trailer. No, it's the full movie. They get to see the whole movie.
I hope that's a discount. That's a very interesting concept. Although, is it going to be full price?
It probably is.
Yeah, that's kind of. It seems that it would be. I mean, I get the allure because we get to be the early audience. We get in a week earlier. Like, I guess that's a week early, isn't it? Isn't Aquaman's slated? Yeah.
Actually, slightly less than a week, I think, but
I can see that. But yeah.
Okay, it's a thing.
It is a thing.
Let's see, a couple other DC movie news things this week. From the Birds of Prey movie. Last week they announced that they cast Ewan McGregor as Black Mask, which is a brilliant piece of casting.
Yeah.
This week they announced Ella J. Bosco is going to be playing Cassandra Cain, who is I think the newest of the Batgirls. My problem with this is Cassandra Cain is supposed to be somewhere between 16 and 18. Cassandra, let's see, Ella J. Basco? Is it Basco or anyway? This little girl, I looked her up. She's 12, looks maybe 8. This version of Batgirl is supposed to be was trained by the League of Assassins, psychotic master martial artist that beat the crap out of Batman when she first popped up, and you're telling me that this 8-year-old is going to pull that off?
She's 12, and she'll be 13.
She looks 8, and no.
That's interesting. I totally thought you were going to go the other way, way of a 30-year-old actress. Obviously, they're changing it.
Yes, and they don't need to. Damn it.
That's really an odd decision. I can see that it might work, but it's also kind of...
She looks like a young Batgirl, except Batgirl is supposed to be young. So, what? Fetal girl. I don't know.
I mean, Robin was not 12 years old when Robin showed up. I mean, I can see
not the original.
If they went right, I can see it if they went a little younger, like 15.
Damian Wayne is supposed to be this old, but that's a bit different. And casting Damian.
And maybe that's where they got that from. But it is kind of odd because, the whole Damian Wayne character, I don't really buy into. I think that's just stupid. I mean, the fact that he's Robin and he's doing all this stuff and I don't care who you're reared by and trained by and all the rest of it. And it's like, that's still ridiculous. So, the 12-year-old Batgirl, it's
a bit young.
Yeah, it seems a bit young.
Let's flip that. Casting from the Supergirl TV series, they finally cast Lex Luthor. And it's not who I thought it would be. John Cryer as Lex Luthor. And I can actually kind of see it.
I can see it as long as, A, they shave his head, and 2, they don't let him be in total psycho mode like they did in the horrible decision that they made in the DC film universe. It's like, that's not the Lex Luthor character. This manic, psychotic. I was like, God, it's like, how could you work any harder to get the character wrong? So,
no.
Yeah. So that's very cool. I think John Cryer could do a very, very good job. Not ever would have thought of, which makes perfect sense. That's why they went that way.
Speaking of the DC extended universe or cinematic universe or whatever they're wanting to call it, I saw Mission Impossible 6 this week. No, I'm not doing it on the review show. Lee already did that. But I watched this movie. Through the whole thing, I thought there were two characters when I was looking at one, because I'm looking at Henry Cavill. And with as big a deal as they made about his mustache for this movie, having to digitally remove it for Justice League because he needs it in Mission Impossible 6, every time he came on the screen, I expected that mustache to jump off his face and start a musical or something. I'm expecting it to be its own character, and it wasn't. I thought it would have its own credit at the end of the movie. Henry Cavill is this guy, and his mustache as SpongeBob or something. There was not. He didn't even need the mustache. It made him look like a porn star,
that's
which
why
Henry Cavill didn't need. It was a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but the mustache was. It was just too much. They did not need to make that big a deal out of his mustache. But that leads me on to something. I don't know if this is misogynistic or not, but we're going to do this anyway. This Friday is Black Friday, as I mentioned before, and if you want something from our shop, go to the website, because it'll be a lot easier than going out and fighting everybody at stores. But we know that this is kind of its own holiday, and it's mainly a female-based holiday, because men wait until December 24th to buy their Christmas presents anyway. That means all the women are going out to go shopping, and I know they're not. Leaving the men at home to do what? Well, we decided to go out and find the most masculine movie of all time for guys to watch this Friday. And I'm going to disagree with some places, because I found a list of the top 25 masculine films on IMDb, and they said number 11 is Top Gun. I'm like, no.
I agree with you. No,
that
it's a masculine.
I'll be misogynistic still. That's more of a chick flick with action scenes in it.
It's not one of the top 25 macho movies. I agree with you.
No,
and certainly number 11.
No. So what did you come up with for your most masculine movie?
I also looked at various lists and blah, blah, blah. And I agree with one of the lists that was on IMDb, created by C. Howard 125. Thank you, C. Howard 125. Unless it's Choward 12.5, which would be cool. So I'm going to call him or her Choward 12.5. 10 most macho movies ever. Number 10 on this person's list is Die Hard. That's pretty strong if you're going with Die Hard as number 10. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would be kind of silly. The Great Escape, a movie I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
That's number 4 on the list. Totally get that one. Hard Times is number 2, which not many people know about the movie. It is an excellent, excellent movie starring Charles Bronson and James Coburn. That's pretty macho right there. Charles Bronson, James Coburn, but their number 1 choice. And I will probably change my mind because that's how top movie lists go. But they have The Magnificent Seven, the original 1960 version, most macho movie ever. And I can agree. There are some women in it, and several of these movies literally have no women in the cast whatsoever. But
that's true.
There are women in the film. But gunfighters who go to save a poor Mexican village. And it's just...
it's not Three Amigos.
Yeah, it's not. And the machismo just exudes. Charles Bronson, again, is in it. Steve McQueen, Yul Brynner, Eli Wallach as the bad guy. I mean, this movie is just like over-the-top machismo. Definitely a guy movie, and I don't know, literally I do not know of a single male who does not love this movie. And now Rob's going to say, oh God, I hate that movie.
I don't hate the movie, it's just I'm not into Westerns.
I knew it was coming. But to me, the most macho movie, because it is all about, and they constantly try to show each other up, which, again, part of the machismo.
That's a guy thing.
That is totally a guy thing.
I went, I guess the same era of movies, just a different genre, I suppose. Went with Goldfinger.
Yes.
Because of all the Bond movies, which are misogynistic as they are anyway, this one had all the spy stuff, the action scenes that guys get into. It's got a bomb at the end with a timer that you've got to cut the right wire and stuff. Mm-hmm. Spoiler, I suppose. It even had a golf scene.
A spoiler.
I mean, come on.
In 1964. That's
for good. Yeah, really. It had a golf scene that made me go, all right, I can put up with a golf scene in a movie. Because if you've listened to any of my other shows before, you know I hate golf. I put up with golf in this movie because it was a Bond movie. And there's 2 women in this movie. One of them is hot. I mean, they're both hot. One of them ends up getting mostly naked and painted gold, which is kind of cool, even if she died. The other one is pussy galore. Come on. You're not going to get a more misogynistic masculine movie, I think, than Goldfinger.
No, you won't.
So there.
And definitely has one of the greatest lines ever said by a villain when...
Do you expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
You see, we didn't even rehearse that.
How beautiful. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that. Well, not everybody, because there's like maybe 6 people who don't know it. But, God, that's just such a classic thing.
Ella J. Bosco hasn't been old enough to see the movie yet, but
no, that's quite...
Even she knows that line.
Yeah, but Goldfinger, totally macho. Like you said, I mean, just pussy galore, my God.
It's the only time I can say that word on this show without having to beep it out.
Or be a president.
That too. Anyway.
A beautiful macho film indeed.
I'm going to end the show on a bit of a trailer for a movie that's coming out on November 30th. Because I saw the title of this and said, maybe this is something we want to cover on the show. And this is about the extent that we're going to cover it on the show. It's a movie called Anna and the Apocalypse, which to me, I saw that and went, it sounds kind of Disney-ish. Dark, but Disney-ish. It's not. I'm going to leave 3 words out of this description. Okay, I'll tell you what they are when I'm done, but I'm leaving 3 words out.
Oh.
The description is: a zombie apocalypse threatens the sleepy little town of Haven, forcing Anna and her friends to fight and slash their way to survival, facing the undead in a desperate race to reach their loved ones. But they soon discover that no one is safe in this new world, and with civilization falling apart around them, the only people they can truly rely on are each other. Now, the first description I saw of this movie was right under that, which doesn't... I mean, that sounds like a horror movie, right? The first description underneath it is the feel-good Christmas movie of the year.
Are you not? Are you lying?
Oh my God! Really the words I left out. I am not. Hang on a minute. The words I left out. Going back to that first sentence, I'll read that one again. Putting the words back. A zombie apocalypse threatens the sleepy little town of Haven, forcing Anna and her friends to fight, slash, and sing their way to survival. That's right, folks. It's a zombie apocalypse Christmas musical. Oh my God, how many genres are you trying to throw into this movie? Then the Jedi attack, and the Titanic sinks. I mean, what else is left? That just, if you want to go see it, you're on your own. I know our slogan is "We watch movies, so you don't have to," but
that would be a hard
I'm
pass.
totally going to pass on this one. We'll make Lee do it. Anyway, have a happy Thanksgiving, and come back on Friday where we're going to review a couple movies. We'll see you then. And until then, you know what? The holiday's not till Thursday. Go see a movie.
Captain, we're losing power in the warp engines.
I think we should be leaving now.
I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
And on that unusually harmonious bombshell, it is time to end.
I am very disappointed!
Man, we have a weird job.
It's shameful, but it's a living.
And like that, he's gone.
Hey, who turned out the lights?